And here it is, the brand new Lenovo ThinkBook Z13. This is the brand new model for 2023-2024. Last year, this is one of the first laptops that I reviewed like seriously on my channel. My channel was kind of picking up. I did last year's model. I bought this one here, and then I did a review on it. I really liked the laptop. This is the brand new model here. Lenovo sent this over to me to review, and I'm actually very excited about it because I really did love this laptop last year. This is what I would call probably Lenovo's most premium laptop. They may not call it that, they have other ones, the Yoga 9i and all these things here, but this laptop here is supposed to be basically no corners cut. It is an extremely nice laptop, probably more designed for someone who likes the idea of a MacBook Pro probably, but doesn't like being stuck with the outrageous cost of a MacBook Pro, and of course the lack of upgradability with Apple, and of course Mac OS. Some people don't like Mac OS, some people can't use Mac OS. So this one here gets all the benefits of that, but it's in a Windows ecosystem here, and it is hyper premium. So this model here you can see is a 13-inch laptop, tiny little laptop, but despite that, it's going to be an all-metal chassis, metal deck, metal bottom, metal lid, so extremely, extremely premium. The screen on this is one of the most important selling features here. It is an OLED screen. This one here is an AMD model. The Z13 and the Z16 are AMD models. So let's jump into it. I'll do my full review, and I think I'm going to love this laptop. Okay, and here is the laptop. Same packaging as last year. It had that really nice premium kind of, I think it's like a recycled material. Yeah, there we go. Just like last year. I think it looks about the same. I can't remember if it was a little bit darker metal last year. They came in the leather last year, like the sustainable leather material. And then this year, there's the metal one as well. So it looks like they sent that over. So very, very premium. It's cold right now. You can see it was outside. I just kind of got it in actually. So it's got cold weather fingerprints all over it just from my hands. But yeah, it's same type of design over here. So it's got that metal bottom, metal chassis on the bottom, speaker grills, fan intake. I believe it has the dual little fans in there, same as last year. Aluminum, the same type top is there, same design, that kind of cut metal there. That's really on not very many of their laptops. This one here, it's also on some of their Legion laptops there too. So very nice looking laptop. Basically looks the same as last year, I would say, which is a good thing. It was an extremely aesthetic and beautiful laptop last year. USB-C on the left side there, that's USB 4. USB-C on the right side, also USB 4, power and headphones in. So it doesn't have a lot of connectivity. It is a 13-inch like true Ultrabook, but it does have USB 4 in both cases, so you're able to hook up docks and Thunderbolt 4 type docks, so it's not like you're actually missing out on I/O, just maybe on the go. So let's check the weight here. I remember it being not super light, and it feels kind of the same, but it feels very sturdy, but it is all metal, so yeah, so 870 grams or so, and it does have the standard 65-watt Lenovo charger. Of course, you can use any USB-C. So that puts it at about 1,063 grams. Very, very well built though. So it's not super light because it's not like a plastic material. It is all metal, but it does feel very, very premium. Kind of, if you've ever held like a MacBook Pro, I wouldn't say MacBook Air. This feels more premium than a MacBook Air, absolutely. It feels more like a MacBook Pro 14-inch, despite the fact that it's smaller. So if you took a MacBook Pro 14-inch, the real MacBook Pro, and made it smaller, it would kind of feel like this. Nice and pretty interior there. You can see it is an OLED screen and it is a glossy screen. But it does have a matte filter over it. So it does have a little bit of a like bluish purple hue when it's off here. Very, very nice. You can see my light thing there. So it does have a nice look to it overall. Despite the fact you can see there I get some reflectivity of a spotlighty thing there. So that would normally be like a full reflection, like you would just see me in that right there. But it's going to be, has a little bit of that anti-glare. So the screen is going right to the bezels there, camera and all that up there. Keyboard here is a fairly low travel keyboard, but again, it will feel nice when we get to that part there. Keyboard takes up the whole laptop, so despite being a very small, 13-inch laptop, it's going to have a full-size keyboard right to the edges there. The trackpad is about as big as you could possibly get. I mean, there's not much else you could put in here to make this trackpad bigger, right? It's pretty big. And it'll be a haptic trackpad, you'll see there, so it doesn't click when I click on it. And, very premium build on the inside. So overall, this is basically Lenovo's flagship in terms of premium. It's still a ThinkPad, so you get the ThinkPad features like the little nib in that, and it overall is branded as a ThinkPad, but this is by far their most premium ThinkPad. I mean, they have some other really nice ones like the X1 Nano and that, but that's more of a traditional ThinkPad. This is the hyper premium. And just make sure when you take this off, you don't pull from the front there, because you can see it does have these hook style hinges there. So you don't want to pull too hard because you might snap all of those. Typically with ThinkPads, and most laptops in general, but especially with ThinkPads, I recommend hinging like this from the back, because the hinges on the front are more aggressive. That's why it doesn't have the screws down there. Lid here, some heat sinks there, I guess, and basically just some structure. It's not a huge laptop, so it doesn't need a ton of structure, and that's just a metal thing, so pretty straightforward. Let's look at the inside there. So we can see has a really big battery for the size of the laptop here, pretty much probably amongst as big as they could get. They could maybe make it a bit bigger there, but 51.5 watt hours is a pretty big battery for such a small laptop, all things considered. Down-firing speakers there. If it's like last year, they're going to sound quite good. We'll have to see, but those fire down there, and they are the larger style speakers, so hopefully we get some good sound out of them. That's a slot there if you want to put in a WAN slot. So if you want to get wireless, I think you can spec that out from Lenovo. So you get 2 fans. This is just an APU, so doesn't have dedicated graphics. It has an iGPU. So it's a really thick single heat pipe. So just a single heat pipe, but it is quite thick there. And then 2 fans rather than 1, and they are very, very dense in terms of the fin spread there. So honestly, it should cool as well as something like the Lenovo Legion Go, maybe better actually. Wi-Fi is soldered in there, so there's just not a lot of room. So the Wi-Fi is not upgradable. Of course, there is upgradable storage there, 2242 size NVMe there, so you could get those up to about a 2 terabyte nowadays. I'm not sure how much Lenovo specs it up at, probably 1 terabyte, but you can get those up to 2 now, and then that's about it. So it looks really nice inside. Not a ton of upgradability, obviously. The 13-inch laptop, Ultrabook kind of premium style. They don't push these towards upgradability, they push it towards just being functional and being kind of premium. Okay, so the specs on this model here are to be expected. You get the 7840U, which is a fantastic processor. I've been using it in the ThinkPad recently. Same processor basically that's in the Lenovo Legion Go. So you're gonna also get that really powerful 780M graphics, which are, I think, technically still the most powerful integrated graphics on the market. So that's gonna be good if you do need graphical acceleration, or if you're gaming. You'll be able to absolutely game on this just as well as you can on some of the flagship Windows handhelds. And in terms of just raw processing power, should be great. This one here is equipped with 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is fantastic because, again, that iGPU is going to steal some of that RAM if you're using it. And then, of course, you're going to need it for your own processes, and this is meant to be kind of a high-end machine. So I think you can spec this out with 16 or 32. I'd highly recommend going for 32 because it's going to give legs to this machine. This is a flagship type model here, so you don't want to cut corners on something like RAM. Just put a little bit of extra money into it, and then it will give you those extra years of use on this laptop. And it is very fast memory there too, so 7400 megahertz RAM, which is going to be good for accelerating that CPU, and of course for gaming purposes. Again, I'll mention, looks like the built-in storage is an SK Hynix, later 1 terabyte, so they didn't skimp on that either. Wi-Fi is actually not shown here, which is a little weird, but we can check that after and just check the speeds. So overall, that's really good. And then we'll look at the screen here. The screen is fantastic on this laptop. It's an OLED screen, so fine resolution there, 1800p. So I guess they call that a 2.8K screen, whatever. It's an 1800p screen. So even above 1440 or 1600p screen. It's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, so you get a little bit more height on it. That's why it's not. That's going to be really ideal for a small laptop. Small laptops you do not want to be 16 by 9. It is almost unusable. Nice and bright even on the Windows desktop here. And of course, it is a touch screen here. So if you like touch screens and you like OLEDs, there you go. It's an OLED style touchscreen. Looks fantastic. Let's actually test the screen now, but I mean right here, even on this, it looks nice and bright, very vivid. Colors look fantastic right off the bat, like those reds are really popping there. Blacks are going to be perfect blacks. It's an OLED, and it's a semi-glossy OLED. It's a glossy OLED with an anti-reflective screen is what I'd say here. So you're going to get those really nice dark blacks, despite the fact that you can kind of see me reflecting there. Sometimes if it's a fully gloss OLED, it'll be hyper reflective. This is kind of right in the middle. It doesn't have that fully matte kind of cover that can sometimes dull even an OLED. So reds look fantastic. They don't look remotely as good on camera as they do in person. It's just unfortunately the way that it is. So all the other colors are going to look fantastic. Blue, oh my god, the blues are extremely vibrant. These are calibrated, so they do lean towards this like vibrant end of color saturation. That's because OLEDs tend to do that. But it looks really good here. Okay, here's another video here. This one's going to show it off quite a bit. You can see the greens are very vibrant. Everything is very vibrant. Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it's an OLED screen, but it's also a beautiful OLED screen, not just an OLED screen. Nice and vibrant. Fine resolution. Greens really pop there. Yeah, like you can just see there, it's a fantastic travel. Okay, we'll do an audio test here. We'll start off a little bit lower, so if you have headphones, you'll want to probably turn them down. Okay, I'm going to turn it up. So very loud. Yeah, 85 or so. Yep, so that's that. The speakers are fantastic. I kind of expected that. Same as last year on the 2023 model. This just sounds fantastic. Same as last year's model. I guess it would be with the 6800, 6000 series AMD. Same as last year's model. This year's model sounds absolutely fantastic. The speakers sound really good, despite being tiny little guys there. They're going to rival some of the best laptops out there. All right, let's look at the keyboard and trackpad. So this is a ThinkPad keyboard. So you get some of the advantages of that. It looks like the function and control keys are in the proper spot. So people who get irritated by the normal ThinkPads where that's reversed and you accidentally hit function, that's going to be something that you might like about this because that is reversed. So for me, I get used to it right away, but it is kind of nice because typically, the control functions over there. You do have all your embedded controls up here. Right now, they should be set up as, volume up, volume down, brightness, like that. And then, of course, you can go function escape, which will put the function lock, and now they'll turn into function keys, basically. So you can go like that. The typing experience should be pretty good. Let's try it out. I'm kind of reaching awkwardly, but we'll give it a try. Yep, so it's fantastic. It is a fairly low profile keyboard, like the actual physical keycaps aren't too tall, and the travel is good for that. Like if they were a larger keycap, you would feel a little bit more spacing in between them. They do have decent travel, you can see that there. Definitely better than like a MacBook. MacBook keyboards, I don't care if people say they're not nice. You do get your track point here, so you get your track point nib. Despite the fact that you don't have the dedicated buttons you can see up here, like a lot of ThinkPads, you do still get the track point nib here, and it does still work. So they're basically built in because this is a haptic touchpad. So you can see that it does still work, right? You can use your trackpads just as normal, right? Just as normal. You can do your scrolling up and down. So it does have the track point nib, and it does have the dedicated buttons built into the actual keyboard, built into the actual trackpad there. So there is that. You can feel it too. Now the trackpad itself, you can see there, it's not gigantic, but it's about as big as it can possibly get on a keyboard like this. And the interesting thing is it's a haptic keyboard. So it doesn't have the plunging style. So when you press down, it doesn't physically go down. You get a haptic feedback, which is actually fantastic. If you've never used a haptic keyboard trackpad, I mean, maybe see if you can try one somewhere. They're very, very nice, because otherwise you get the plunging style click, which does wear out over time, and sometimes they're hit and miss, and they're a bit uneven where you click on them. I mean, this is haptic, so you get a little motor down there type thing that will basically give you a little feeling that you're clicking on something, so it feels very nice. One interesting thing that I do note, and I often use a 16-inch laptop, sometimes I use 14 inches, but a lot of times I use a 16-inch laptop. When I use a 16-inch laptop, a lot of times the actual physical chassis is very, very large, so the actual laptop may come up to like something like this here. So what I normally do is I'm sitting that laptop quite a bit back further from me, because otherwise it's right up in my face and it's just too large of a laptop. So I'm like this, and then it's further back, so I'm typing like this, and that's fine because it's further back because it's a 16-inch laptop. So I have a much bigger screen here. The amount of my periphery is going to be taken up almost the same on a 16-inch because it's further back as a 13-inch, because typically when I'm using a 13-inch like this, I bring it much closer to myself when sitting on a couch or something doing work. So I bring it much closer to myself like this, meaning that the same amount of my periphery, or even more, is actually taken up by a 13-inch laptop. So even for me, I'm often guilty of thinking, 13-inch laptop is tiny, which of course it is a tiny laptop. But that's more of a problem if you're using it on a desktop. Like if you're sitting at a desk and you want to have extra peripherals around, papers and that kind of stuff. You work on essays. Sometimes you'll have papers in between you. And the laptop is a little bit small. It's further away. It's a little bit smaller like that. But often people don't factor in the fact that the chassis itself is going to be much larger on a 16-inch laptop, meaning it's sitting back from you maybe 3, 4, 5 inches further than a tiny little laptop like this. So that's one thing that I always forget about when I'm looking at these little tiny laptops here, that sometimes, they are just sitting right up to me. like this. So, you know, if I'm reading or I'm doing work or something like that, or even working on video editing, especially if I use a mouse anyways off to the side, you know, I have a mouse over here on the side like this and I'm doing work. Oftentimes, I don't really notice that it's a small screen because it's so much closer to me. So that's something that you might want to consider. You know, if you're looking at a tiny little hyper portable laptop like this, you know, you may say, well, it is tiny, but there are some advantages to using such a tiny little thing. Obviously, you're going to be moving around with this laptop. It's super portable, you know, very, very premium. So when you pick it up, you just feel secure in this laptop because it does have that all metal chassis. I don't know, it just feels so nice. It just feels so nice because it's a truly super premium laptop. It gives me the same feeling as like a MacBook Pro, but in many cases better because it just has all the frills that you would want out of a laptop like this. Beautiful, beautiful laptop. So that's something to consider, you know, if you're looking at the form factor, the usability, I guess I'd call it. And then, you know, using touch actually makes sense on something like this, whereas I have a 16-inch laptop and it's sitting back like a meter from me because it's this giant screen. Like, what am I going to reach off and do my touch screen gestures like this? And, you know, I mean, it's a good workout on your shoulders, but when you have a thin little laptop like this and you're up here and, you know, I'm doing my navigation, it actually makes sense to then be touchscreen because it's so close to me. I mean, I actually would want to do the touch navigation here. I think it's very usable depending on what your needs are. And I think that having touchscreen on a 13-inch laptop actually does make sense because you want the laptop to be close to you when you're doing that touch interface, unlike a large laptop where typically you want it to be further away from you because it's going to be this giant screen in front of you. And of course, here's a benefit, USB 4, USB 4. So if you're using something like a USB 4 dock here, or USB 4 enclosure, this is a little mini Soparoo USB 4 dock, you're going to get USB 4 speed. So you can see there we're getting 3,140 megabytes a second. The writes will be a little bit slower on this specific one, but it's going to give you full bandwidth USB 4. So if you want, you know, to do video editing or gaming, I guess, or whatever, you know, off of an enclosure like this, using those USB 4, if you have a USB 4 dock, you're going to get blazing speeds here as you can. Yeah, the fan's kicked up there. So you're going to max out at about 46 dB. And it's not a pitchy, annoying sound. That's important to note here. It's just there are fans. It's just kind of movement of air sound, I would say. Absolutely not pitchy whatsoever. So good fan noise overall, I would say. If you're doing some demanding tasks, gaming or video editing or whatever you're going to do, the fan shouldn't bother you. And here's a look at some benchmark results. So we did some Cinebench when plugged in here, getting a pretty good score, 13260. Not bad for this CPU, especially in such a thin chassis. You can see the temperatures on the right there. We did get a moment of thermal throttling, but overall it actually ran pretty cool. That was just before the fans ramped up, pretty much as normal. And then here I did it on battery and basically the exact same scores. So battery or not battery, you're going to get basically the same performance on this laptop here. Wi-Fi is pretty fast, you can see here. 600 downloads, 750 uploads. That's about as fast as my Wi-Fi goes. So it may go faster, but that's as fast as my Wi-Fi goes. The SSD here is pretty good. It's going to be a Gen 3 drive, upper tier Gen 3, 3400 or so reads and writes here. So pretty much as expected. You could potentially add another drive in there, 2242, but this is going to be still very fast for what it is. Battery life is very good on this laptop. So you can see up here when we're at 100%, it's giving us, Windows is giving us 7 hours and 15 minutes or so. If you actually look at the battery discharge rate, it's extremely low. So it's about 6 watts when we're on idle here, which is fantastic. We're going to get actually more than 7 hours. We're probably going to get about 9 hours on idle here. And actually watching some YouTube here, so I'm doing 1080p 60 YouTube here, and we're drawing about 8 watts or so. That's pretty much to be expected. And here, you're going to be getting more like, 5, 6, 7 hours or so, probably about 6 hours or so, I'd say, of YouTube watching there. Here's a look at the built-in webcam. The webcam looks fantastic. Makes sense. It's one of their most premium laptops. A good saturation actually too. Normally I get really washed out here, but this is how I should look here. Our little STARFIELD now. So we're going to go with 1200p. You can see there. And we have dynamic resolution scaling off. We'll just try low to start here with, I guess, max FSR. We'll just see how it looks. See what kind of performance we can get. Yeah, so there you go. Very playable, obviously. 37 or so in these areas. If you get to indoor areas, you're going to be looking probably more at something like that. 45 FPS. But, the lows are good too. So a good spread on the lows and the average. So, yeah, you're going to be getting about, 30 35 to 45 FPS on average with this kind of setting here. This will be a very demanding area. So obviously extremely playable, right? So you can see there, I mean, even during chaos, we're still getting a nice 30 in the city with a ton of stuff going on here. So very, very, very playable, obviously. You're not going to have really any issues playing this title here. You're going to be on fairly low settings, obviously, but I mean, it's a tiny little 13-inch ThinkPad playing Starfield, right? And there we go, I died. Okay, so there you go. Obviously, you can play tons of games on this. The 7840U is the same CPU, basically, that's inside the Lenovo Legion Go, the Z1 Extreme. So, I mean, it's going to run relatively cool as well. It's actually running really cool. So there you go. I mean, it's amazing what we can do with these iGPUs, where we can turn a tiny little ThinkPad into a gaming device, right? Okay, well, it's been a few hours now, and what do I think about the Z13 from Lenovo? It's exactly what I thought last year. It is a beautiful, fantastic device. It is ultra premium, ultra S tier premium device here. I mean, you're not really going to find a nicer Windows device. They just don't exist. You're looking at, high-end MacBook Pro tier type quality here in terms of build quality. In some cases better because, I mean, it does have some other advantages as well over, your Mac products. It's just a beautiful, beautiful machine here. I mean, really, there's like no complaints. What can I possibly complain about this laptop? I mean, it's pretty expensive, I guess, right? It's kind of pricey, but it's ultra premium. I mean, that's what you're getting. You're not buying into this thinking that you're going to get an $800 machine. That's just not what this is here. It's fantastic. I mean, the keyboard, for being a low-profile keyboard, is really nice. Quite nice. The haptic touchpad is fantastic, just exactly as it was last year. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. That high resolution 2.8K OLED screen is just as fantastic as last year. Now it had the 680M graphics last year. Now we're looking at the 780M graphics, which is the same as the Lenovo Legion Go, ROG Ally, etc. So absolute flagship performance on that iGPU there. So you're going to be able to do extremely demanding tasks on this tiny little ThinkPad. The CPU is an incredibly good performer. You're going to be able to do whatever it is you want to do. Engineering type work, 4K multi-stream video editing. You're going to be able to do gaming on the most demanding titles. Starfield, I showed that you can play Starfield on this without any issues. I mean, this thing is a powerhouse. It's crazy that this tiny little 13-inch laptop is now considered a powerhouse. That's basically my review here. If you got the money and you're looking for a flagship, beautiful product that's really going to, knock your socks off and have other people looking at it saying, "Holy crap, you have an extremely nice laptop," this is probably the one to buy. I can't really think of a nicer laptop on the market for a 13-inch kind of flagship. What else is there? This is pretty much top of the market right now.